Hello all, welcome back to the Fisher Lockdown Q&A. You all know me, Mr. Flynn, you know Mr. Street. We'd like to present to you Kieran Treadwell. He is an Ulster Island international. He's going to be answering a few questions today. Over to you, Mr. Street.
Yeah, so thanks again for doing this. I watched the nutrition one, which, you gave a lot of good advice there. And hopefully, as we previously mentioned, you won't have your teammates asking you questions on this as we're going along, which was quite funny. So for sort of the newer boys at school, just a little bit about you and your time at Fisher. So when did you join John Fisher?
In year 7. Sorry, I had to, did I?
Yeah, straight in there.
God, I don't even know, That's a good question. I don't even know the answer to it. I should probably know the answer, shouldn't I? Well, I'm 25 now, 24 now. So,
do you feel like you're 25 or do you feel older or younger?
At the moment, I feel old. After training sessions, usually feel a bit older. I don't really know, Streety, what year I was in there. Sorry. Should probably know that.
No problem. Obviously, sort of a few bangs on the head there, taking their toll.
Shouldn't you know that? Sure, you've got the answer there, no?
Right. So you obviously spent 7 good years at Fisher. Tell us a bit about your time there and sort of how that's perhaps helped you on your journey to become the professional rugby player.
Do you know what? Before Fisher, I probably didn't really play a lot of rugby. I didn't really like, I suppose, rugby when I was before coming to Fisher. I remember going down to Chipstead with Sean Davey, another ex-Fisher lad. But I never really liked it, played on the wing. I just thought I was going to be there just because my mates were there. I used to play football quite a lot. And then when I went to Fisher, it was sort of rugby was the main sport. And it was actually quite sort of the standard of coaching that I actually saw there and was involved in was a lot higher than what I previously did, when the dads are sort of coaching and stuff like that at minis. So that's probably what sort of held my attention a bit more, probably the actual quality of training and the actual drills were probably more interesting and actual technical training rather than just sort of honeypotting around the ball sort of thing when you're younger. I suppose all my mates, it was such a social sport, and all my mates there was quite a bit of competition in there, and that's always good, I think.
So when do you think that transition sort of happened where you began to love the sport?
It was probably a confidence thing. Mr. OD was usually at the forefront of boosting boys up and saying, you're a big lad, you should be able to run through people.
Have you got a classic Mr. OD line that you always remember?
Not that I can actually say on here, probably not. But no, he was a small man that had a big persona about him. So it was not really anyone to argue. You can't really argue with him at all. But no, it's sort of the confidence that he sort of had, and I suppose it was the competition between in the team itself. You get more confident within your technique and within yourself that you can actually do it. And the coaches were good there, the teachers were good there, that actually they did instill it into you.
Was there any, obviously you've gone on to do brilliant things with rugby, was there any sort of time during your rugby career at John Fisher where, you weren't in the A team and you had to fight for your position and there was a bit of a struggle to get back into the top?
I'd say that's always going to be a problem. Like you sort of, I suppose you get comfortable within yourself, and I suppose that's how the greats become great and stay great. Doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, they are going to be the best or try and be the best at least. I remember there was a time, I think it was about around year 9 or year 10 or something like that, and I remember I was playing all right. I wasn't really getting myself involved, sort of thing. Didn't really do anything wrong or anything like that, but I just wasn't performing I was performing within myself, sort of thing. And I remember getting chucked down to the B's and C's or something like that to do a bit of just training on the Monday evenings and stuff like that, where it was turning pitch black on those Monday evenings. But it does make you feel like your position's not safe. You have to perform. You're only as good as your last performance, I suppose. But no, it does. And then it carries on and goes on. I mean, even when I was younger, going into Surrey or something, or Southeast England or something in there, I didn't really understand. I never really got told sort of no, and then to suddenly get told you're not as good as you think you are, sort of thing. It is a bit of a smack in the teeth. I suppose I had a good support team around me as well, like my mum, my dad, grandparents, friends, and everything like that. They do sort of. I remember my dad told me and mum told me, look, you can either sit down and just give up, or you just got to prove them wrong, I suppose. And then the next year I was playing for Ireland, I think, and then went back to England. And so it's all about just don't take anything sitting down. Do you know what I mean? I suppose. I know it sounds real. That's an OD one, isn't it? But I suppose it's along those sort of lines.
Okay, brilliant. This is a question that was given to me as well. What 3 words would you use to describe John Fisher?
Proud, passionate, I suppose integral, I suppose, as well. The first ones that come to mind anyway, but so many different words you can describe Fisher. Like, I suppose for me, I am proud to be a Fisher lad, I suppose, and it's still there in me.
Similar to what Martin Rooney said, we sat down with him, very same lines. Like, everyone's proud to wear the Fisher badge, or so it is. It's a good thing. I think the younger boys could aspire to do that as well.
Definitely. I think, like, I know the Whitgift was always our rivals and stuff like that, but I suppose we went out and took a lot of things. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was, I think we had that sort of fight, and I suppose you do keep that going through life. Well, I have, like, tried to anyway, and I know a few of my boys have definitely done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's one of many you could pick from this, but what would be one of your fondest memories at John Fisher?
Fondest memories at Fisher.
It doesn't necessarily have to be on a rugby pitch.
Do you know what? It's one that sticks out to me, and I wasn't even playing. And it's not at 15s. Like, I just remember it so vividly. I remember I remember playing in the Roslyn Park Sevens at Roslyn Park, wherever it was. And then, you know, you play the final game and it gets replayed at Twickenham.
Yeah.
And I remember I did my MCL the week after the Roslyn Park Sevens, and we were playing against Millfield in the final. And I was devastated I wasn't playing, like, absolutely devastated. And it just comes back to integrity and being integral. Like, I remember being felt like, look, you're a part of this team, you're coming along. And we turned them over at Twickenham, and I just remember it was just absolutely mad. Like, all the boys, like, most of the boys never played somewhere like that before, and we just absolutely tore them apart. Like, they didn't even get on the board, I think. I do remember
one of the best Fisher performances that I've ever seen, you know, playing and watching. It was, he just totally, you know, outcast them. It was really brilliant to see. And there's actually a picture when you talk about sort of being part of that team. It's up at Plough Lane, and it's a picture, you know, you're all huddled round, and there you are, not in your kit, standing round with the boys in the huddle. And it's quite a powerful picture, actually, when you look at it. And obviously with you talking about that was one of your biggest moments, and you weren't even playing, but it was that team unity that you had. And I think that showed in the performance. Probably underestimated you guys, but, you know, on the day, that was genuinely one of the best Fisher performances I've ever seen. It was incredible.
Another little memory as well was that St. Joseph's tournament. I don't know if they still do it now, but that was great. That was the first sort of time away with all the lads, and it was like I think it was 3 boys in a room, like, all squeezed into one room. It was just good crack, like. And we did quite well with that. I think we got to like the quarters or semi or something along those lines.
It's a tough.
That was great. Tough competition, and that your body felt it afterwards. I mean, 2 days, wasn't it? 2 days of rugby.
Yeah, there's that's still going on. That's still a ridiculously tough competition. Really challenges the bodies over that 2 days of intense rugby against the best. It's a fantastic.
It's the best of the best you're playing as well, which is great. And to put Fisher up against the best of the best, and and you do hold your own, which I think is great. I think.
Okay, one from Mr. Dean here. He had other ones saying, how you should thank him for everything you've done in your career. I didn't put that one in there.
The shirt doesn't come out of his office. He won't let it out.
How did John Fisher shape your character over the 7 years you were here? And has this helped you in your transition to becoming a professional sportsman?
Is he just put Fisher instead of his name there? Probably.
Yeah, basically.
How's it shaped me being a Fisher? I suppose I've covered quite a few of those things, but I suppose the main thing is just sort of like, I don't want to say a chip on your shoulder sort of thing, but that sort of little bit of dog about you, I suppose. I don't really know how to sort of explain it, but that's great. And then along the lines of just in general life, like Fisher do bring you up to be polite men, I think, as well, and nice characters. I mean, I don't think you'll ever meet a nasty Fisher or a cocky Fisher boy or anything like that, I suppose. And I suppose that's something that Fisher boys can always be proud of. I mean, like, still you see boys saying, yes, please, thank you. Always looking out for someone else as well, which I think is great.
It kind of leads on to the next question. Obviously, I know you quite well, and you're right in, Fisher boys come out and they become really good blokes. Was there ever a time at school where, you weren't so well behaved?
I was no, in fact, no. I wasn't. No, I suppose I was a terror for top button. That was my thing, a terror for top button. And I remember Mr. Davey, and probably you as well, the poke in the chest, the Davies poke in the chest. I mean, I've still got bruises there.
Yeah, we've all got holes in our chest from them.
So I suppose I was a terror for that, and gel in the hair and stuff like that, but not too bad. I mean, you used to get shampoo in your hair if you had. I don't know if you still do that now, but I remember having shampoo in my hair, going, go and wash that out. I'd be like, okay.
No, we should look to get that back, I think. That'd be good. What teachers had a particular impact on your journey as a person and a rugby player?
Is that from Mr. Dean again? I suppose all the sports staff, like all of them, even like people that aren't there, like Mr. Briggs.
Back now?
Huh?
He's back now.
Is he?
He used to coach me as well.
Just getting, like, I still talk to him now a little bit, but it's everyone, like everyone across the line. I remember likes of you, Mr. Owen. I remember even those, and I suppose Mr. Gold and Mr. Davies obviously had a big impact on me, because I suppose when I was under 16s, I played quite a bit for the first team. So I was probably with them for like 3 years. So they had a massive impact on me.
Do you have one in particular that you think was that that coach where you could lean on, like, through tough times? Or say you were going, like, had some sort of like thing you wanted to work on, you could go to that coach, he'd help you work on it straight away.
Do you know what? It's again, I suppose, because of the time I had with them, Mr. Gold and Mr. Davies, but for different things. Mr. Gold, I had, I think it's hilarious, I still call him Mr. Gold and Mr. Davies. But like, I suppose Mr. Gold was anything sort of rugby, and I remember he brought a lot of people in. So I remember Nick Reese, I think it was, came in. He brought him in to do some sort of like early morning training and stuff like that, and any sort of skill-based stuff. He was very technical, and just in life in general, like, if you get knockbacks, and like you get knockbacks when you're at the top quite often, and it can happen on a weekly basis, and not really know what sort of reason you have for it. And he still is a good person to sort of talk to about that sort of thing, like even now. And then Mr. Davis, I remember he used to actually coach my uncle, and he's like 50 years old now. So he used to always be. He used to be on me for my academic side of it, I suppose. He used to always drill me and say, "Look, you've got to keep this up. Like, you can't just not do stuff because you've got training. You have to do it." And like, I remember he organised some sort of like lunchtime sessions with teachers that I had to go to and stuff like that. I remember he was quite good to lean on that sort of way. And probably my mum was probably onto him as well, quite hard. But it was no, they're both quite prominent in my they're both probably quite prominent in the way that I sort of grew up, I suppose.
Excellent. You've been involved in some obviously very successful teams at Fisher, and you're currently at a successful team now. What would you say is one of the most important ingredients for that success in that team environment?
To be fair, I think it's just like that dog sort of mentality, that sort of go out and get it sort of thing. Like, I remember having team talks. I remember Sean Dave used to do these team talks and just be like, look, we haven't sort of got anything to lose. We're going out there to win. That's our game to win, sort of thing. It's not our game to lose. And that sort of, I suppose, in-house competition is always great. Like, I mean, it's so competitive no matter what we do, whether it's lifting, just fitness, what bikes, is so competitive. And even the unseen stuff, like, there's almost like an ethos and an ownership on the players, I suppose, in this current team that I'm in as well, that if he's doing it, we should be doing it as well. And don't be afraid of calling people out. It's not a bad thing to call someone out, I don't think. If someone does it to you as well, then it's just to get the team better, to win. So I don't think that's a bad thing.
Have you ever had to do that, or has that ever been done to yourself?
Yeah, it's been done to me a few times, especially when I was young, because it was like you get chucked in at the deep end. I remember going to Quins and getting chucked in at the deep end and being told, not sort of warming up, like, "Oh, you're doing all right, you're doing really well." I remember being like smacked and just being like, "Look, come on, concentrate." And I remember like different boys, not going to name them, but like different boys, like if you run a wrong line and say like a play or something like that, or you mess up the play, don't forget, or you don't hit that ruck at the right time, or I remember the play stopped. I remember they stopped the training and he just threw the ball back to the start and went, "Let's do it again." So it's always happened. And then I suppose I've done it as well, but like, I suppose you get a bit more confident when you're in a team for a bit longer and you've got a few more caps under your belt. But I suppose it's a two-way street. Like, if your boys are doing it to you, then they've got to expect that you're going to do it to them if they're slacking a bit. But as I said, it's not a personal attack on someone. It's just, let's get the team better.
Okay. Obviously, you're getting to that stage now. For some of the boys, it's going to be slightly worse than normal. But we've got our new crop, Year 6 students, come to join John Fisher. What advice would you give those boys that are joining the school?
Do you know what? I'd say enjoy it. I say my time at Fisher went so fast. I think it went so fast, actually, looking back. I can remember that first day before school. I don't know what's the crack now with all this lockdown and stuff like that, but I remember we did those 2 days training. It was in the summer holidays. I don't know what it was. Do you remember those ones?
Yeah, still doing them.
And there was like 300 students or something like that. Mad amount of students that come and just play, like, just have a bit of like rugby drills and a bit of crack and stuff like that. I remember I made most of my mates that day. But no, I'd just say enjoy it and don't feel like there's pressure. There is pressure, but there's only pressure you put on yourself. Just go out and enjoy it, and there's always opportunity. I remember boys like, who was it, like Nick Ryan or John O'Connor or something like that, and they'd go. I remember they were playing in like the D's or the E's in Year 7, and they'd be playing in the A team the next year or the year after. Like, so it's not like you're in this team forever. People peak at different times. People think, "Oh, do you know what? This is my kind of time." I remember it was the law about Jacqueline or something like that came in or something, and John O'Connor, that was it. He was into the A team or something. Whether he was legal or not is a different story. But
you need to wait and see Mr. Street's Jackal video. That's pure technique right there. It's coming out on Monday. I'll send it over.
How long does it take you to get back straight?
Flynn, I don't know if you want to go over some of the other questions.
Yeah, so we've got a year 8, like I said, the year 8 EPDG group.
Yeah.
Lovely group of lads, and in my opinion, I'm probably a bit biased because they're my first ever Fisher team. I'm just getting the questions up. They're going to be a special group. They work hard. I've never say this all to their face because I quite like being quite hard on them, so they learn properly. And they're going to see this on Monday anyway. But they work really hard, and they are a special bunch. But I asked them all to come up with a question. So the first one was, what is the transition from school to club like over here and in Ireland? And are there any big changes? I don't know if you.
Is that like
So
as
how would
in
you go from school rugby to club rugby over here and in Ireland? Is it the same? Is the gist I'm getting from that question? Do you know
like
the
men's rugby, but it's a men's rugby basically? Yeah.
answer? Okay. Yeah.
Um, it's quick, and you do sort of learn, I suppose, learn on the job. There's no sort of waiting time. You do train hard. Like straight. I remember my first session for Quins pre-season. I remember we were doing, it was testing first day, and it was like we do test squat, bench, and like a row test and a spin bike test. And I mean, I threw up. Like I just couldn't hold it together. I literally couldn't hold it together.
All the secrets are coming out now.
Oh god, yeah. But it is tough. But I mean, it does get easier. It's just a shock to the system. And now I suppose I'm in pre-season 6, I think now 6 or 7, and nothing changes. Like you do feel the same way, but it's just as hard as you want to push yourself. And I suppose I've always sort of tried to push myself as hard as I can. But physically, it is tough. But your body just does get used to it.
I suppose you kind of feel like, I don't know. Did you on your first day at Queen's? Did you feel like back in year 7, rucksack,
Oh,
big
you're
body?
a small fish in a big pond. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. To be fair, I probably had it a bit easier because I played my first game for Queens at 17, so I was sort of, I knew a few lads, and played a bit of like Monday night games, like A League and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I sort of did have a vague sort of idea of who was who and stuff like that. And the coaches usually stick the same when you're in your like full time academy. So I was doing, I was with Tim Hall. He's not there anymore, but he was massive. Like in EPD, is it EPDG? Is it, or EPP, or what it's called?
You've got the DPP, and that links into the EPDG.
Okay, yeah. So those sort of coaches will always be there for sort of thing. So there's a familiar face there. But no, it's enjoyable. Like it's high intensity. It's really high intensity, and you do sort of pick up skills. It's like if you play with the best, you will pick up things, and it brings your game on leaps and bounds quickly.
Nice. So another one. I think this is the best question. What are the 3 attributes a young player should strive to excel at and focus on? That's from the captain of the group.
That's a good question.
Yeah, they catch us out all the time.
Let me get back to you. I don't know. I suppose the basic things like your catch pass is massive. Like we still have like, I'd say 20-minute skill sessions at the start of a session within a gym session, and it's just standing passing, like one-handed like pass from the hip, not like 10 meters apart, not even that, probably like 5 meters sometimes, and gradually build it up. So catch pass, massive thing. I suppose it depends positional. Like I suppose props probably. Street, you could probably help us out there. Props.
Like that.
It's probably like you want to be. I suppose your scrum technique is probably massive in there.
Yeah.
For me personally, line outs, making sure I know I can run a line out or jump in any spot. If anyone's got a question, they can come to me. That's massive, I suppose. I suppose your fitness, your match fitness, but you're never gonna like. I suppose we're in pre-season now. You can be as fit as you want to be there, but as soon as you play a game, you're going to be blowing.
How fit are the boys coming back in? Are they?
To be fair, the boys have been good, but I suppose it's because of lockdown. You haven't really been able to do anything else, so you would be training. Like I mean, I was training probably like flat out near enough. So I feel pretty good, I suppose. But you're always going to be tired. I mean, you're not going to be running and not have any sort of tiredness. But I suppose a catch pass is massive.
Quite refreshing, actually, hearing you say that, and that'll be one that the boys will pick up on, is that you do just concentrate on those absolute basics, and even at your level, you're still hitting them consistently in training. So I know some boys sort of have that thought that, you know, when it goes up to a higher level, that's forgotten.
Yeah. I suppose that's definitely changed. Like, I suppose when I was at Fish, I was always worried about. I was always in gym trying to be bigger, eating as much as I could. I was trying to be bigger. And in actual fact, now it's sort of complete opposite. It's all about the skills. Like, you're not going to get picked on the team for how much you bench. You'll probably get picked on the team if you can catch and pass really well at high speed. But I suppose that's the most general sort of thing that I can say that will cover every position. Is your catch pass is massive, and I suppose your contact work, tackle technique.
It's funny what you said about the bench press, because I find when I coach in different places, a lot of boys are so fixated on their squat, their deadlift, and their bench, but then actually, you saying that, and I saw a coach tweet, no one's going to get picked on the bench press earlier. Yeah. Actually, I really agree with that, and there's a big debate on Twitter about it. I was just reading through the comments thinking, you're so right, it's all about the skill in your decision making. So that's again refreshing, like Mr. Street was saying about the catch bars. Next question is, what's the toughest team that you've played against and why?
Toughest team I played against. Do you know what? There's two, but for different reasons. Japan was probably one of the toughest games that I played up until that point, because they're so relentless. They just 100% all the time, and it was tough. It was real tough, and that was my first sort of international game, and I was absolutely blowing, like the worst I've felt for a long time. And then the quarterfinal against Leinster last year, that was a tough game. That was quicker. So we've obviously got GPS and stuff like that. So that was all. They said that was quicker than an international game, the last Six Nations. So that was really intense. I was sore after that one, but like, they're always the ones you remember. The toughest ones are always the ones you remember. So
last one from the year 8, guys. How did you not burn out on rugby, and how do you still keep the momentum going?
Burnout. I don't know. I suppose it's different as you get, like, I'm talking like I'm 35 here, but as you get older,
It's not too bad that age.
I'm not quite there yet, so I don't have to worry.
But I suppose it's like your needs become different. I suppose recovery has been a massive thing, and like prehab and rehab, to try and prolong as long as you can play. I mean, I recover quite a lot. I invest probably quite a lot into my recovery. I could do a lot of ice baths. I do foam rolling, massage gun, that sort of thing. Like I do actually do that quite a lot. Stretch every evening if I can.
Martin really said exactly the same thing, and Streety showed me his muscle gun. Must have been the start of the year. He bought it in for one of the boys, and I bought one myself, and they're amazing.
It's just so good if you want to like just sit and watch. Like if you're not, like, foam rolling is a workout, I think, and if you just want to sort of sit down and actually just get the massage gun on your calf or something like that, it's very good. But no, I think nutrition and sort of recovery and rehab and prehab is massive. We do a lot of stuff before a session. We call it movement health. So it's like you have 15, 20 minutes, and it's all sort of like, sort of hop and sticks and stuff like that to make yourself, I suppose, switch on, to limit the injury. We'll talk about sort of training time on the field. So the amount of time that you're available, and that all takes into account, I suppose, your recovery and everything like that. It's quite good. It's quite easy, I suppose, when it's tougher when you're in school and you haven't got that sort of the people around you. Like, we've got nutritionists, we've got physios, we've got S&C staff, and it's all sort of, you get told what to do. It's just on your time for doing it, I suppose.
Excellent. Right, I'm going to jump in with a couple here. So, who is, in your opinion, the best rugby player you've played with and against?
Oh, hopefully this don't go out to any Ulster boys. The best player I've ever played with.
It might be for, not necessarily because of their abilities.
Best player I've ever played with I'd say is Rory Best, hands down. He's good technically. He's good on the pitch. He's one of the best blokes I think I've ever met, and he's the best leader that I've ever a captain I've ever been under. He's someone that's actually called me out before, where I've been.
Not much you can say to that, is there?
So he was like, I remember it was in training, and it was like he was doing like a run through of plays, and like against light opposition, it was just touch and go down, literally running through the play. And I remember I'd carried this ball, and I sort of landed just on my back and just sort of put the ball back, like quite lazy. No one would have picked up on it. It would have been nothing. And then it started ramping up the session. It started getting a bit more lively, and then we did like a scrummaging at the end. And like, right lads, well done. Roy just grabbed the scruff of my neck and just went, look, come on, we're doing this. And like, we did about 5-10 minutes of body ball. So I'm holding the ball, and him and Hendy were trying to rip the ball off me, and I was trying to get to ground. And he goes, if you land on your back, I think it was just before the quarterfinal, in fact. He goes, if you land on your back, they're going to be straight on it. That's going to be a turnover. And I remember him doing that. But he's great. He just makes you feel so empowered, like as a captain. And then he'd lead from the front. I mean, he'd talk about big players and big plays. Like, he would just pull something out, and you just think, how have you done that? And I remember in the quarterfinal, he was devastated that he obviously came off very early, and you could see the amount of belief that he gave the team. And he was in there at halftime. He was telling the boys this, and this. He's a smart guy.
Excellent. And I guess against?
What's the person I played against? I don't know. That's such a tough question. I don't really know. I said Nakarawa was pretty tough. I played against him a few times. I played against him for Fiji and when he was at Racing and Glasgow, I think it was, or Edinburgh he was at. He's so tough to play against. Only like because you try and wrap him up or do something and he'll somehow get the ball away and they'll be miles up the pitch and just go, how have you done that? And he's so strong as an ox. You can't run into him or he will like envelop you. But he's just a tough player to play because he doesn't play conventionally. So he's very tough to play against.
We went to watch your game where you came and played Quins and obviously playing against Dombrant. How was that? Was that weird in any way, or having shared?
No, it was good. I remember
like at some point, didn't you, during the game?
It was all good though. We were absolutely cracking up at each other, and I was like, because obviously I was at Quins, and all the Quins boys jumping in. We was all laughing and joking, and it was just hilarious. But the refs don't know that. The refs going, calm down, and we're absolutely wetting ourselves. It was good fun. But that was a good game. That was a good game to play in. I actually injured myself that game, but it was good. It was good fun to play in that game. It's always better to play against your friends because you try and hit them extra hard. Do you know what I mean? Or something to them, or just like I remember, like I was like put a finger in his ear or something like that on the ground, just trying to annoy him. Do you know what I mean? Just really trying to annoy each other. It was just hilarious. It's all good fun, and you're just best mate. You're good mates after. Do you know what I mean? So it's all good.
Do you still keep up with him regularly?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Like on Instagram, it's so easy. Do you know what I mean? Like someone put a story up or something like that, and I think he put a story up the other day about his like new hobbies or something. He was reading or something. And I was like, mate, you've never read a book in your life. Your new hobby.
40 books.
Yeah.
When we get him on, we'll call him out on that one. We'll find out what he was reading.
With a picture book, a pop-up book or something like that.
Right, I've got a couple more because daddy duties are coming up. I've got to pick the kiddies up. Just one thing before I hit you with a couple of quick fire questions.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best thing about being a professional rugby player?
Do you know what? It's doing the thing that you love day in, day out. And I mean, it's tough work, but I think if you start complaining, then you're sort of losing the love of the game. And I mean, you're going to do things that you hate. Like, I mean, I don't really like doing a Bronco, like doing running fitness testing. I hate that sort of side of it, but that's only 5 minutes. Or depending how fast you run it, so 5 minutes should be under 5 minutes. But then after, you've got the crack with lads. Everyone's in the same boat if you actually think about it, and it's going in the change rooms and just the banter's flying. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you're doing. It's just good crack, and it's just constant. It's going and doing it with your best mates, and trying to do something good, as in trying to win cups, win championships. Like, if you could do it with your mates, it's just great.
Do you ever sit back in a changing room as a fan and forget you're rugby playing and reflect on who you're in a change room when you talk about Rory Best and what an inspiration he was to you? Did you ever sometimes think, wow, look at where I am?
I suppose when he retired, you do, but like when you're with him every day, he's so down to earth. He's just like a mate. Like, you'd tear into him, he'd tear into you. Like, it's just a bit of banter. It's usually just you're there with your mates, rather than this is Rory Best, this is Jared Payne, this is whoever. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not really like that, I suppose. I suppose after a good game, after a proper a proper fight, like, of a game, you sort of sit back and you just sort of sit next to each other and just sort of like, you have a beer. And just like, that was good. I was there. I went to the trenches with my mates there. Like,
yeah,
I suppose that's what you sort of think.
Okay, Flynny, any other questions before I hit a couple of quick fires here?
No, I pretty much answered everything I wanted to know and what the boys wanted to know. It's been amazing. I'm looking forward to this quick fire round. I've seen the questions, so good luck, Kieran.
Well, some of them we might revisit, but we're going to see if you are telling the truth really quickly. So, as quickly as you can, no thinking. Beating Whitgift or beating Leinster?
Being Whitgift.
Being told off by Mr. OD or being told off by Rory Best?
What's worse?
Yeah.
Rory.
Oh, you might have just created a monster at school for all the boys there now.
That's a good thing, isn't it?
Favourite food?
Pasta.
Favourite football team, if you support one?
Crystal Palace.
Good man. Hardest working rugby player?
Rory Best.
Favourite box set?
Trials of O.J. Simpson.
Okay, I've made this quite easy for you by taking out the two top ones. Other than Predator and Rocky, what is your favourite film?
It is Shutter Island.
Great choice.
Interesting.
Great.
I think we might have covered this quickly, but greatest rugby memory?
Fisher or just general?
General.
Probably playing that quarter-final against Leinster, even though we lost.
What would be your best advice for a young aspiring rugby player?
Enjoy it. I know it's so cliche.
Last one. What do you miss the most about John Fisher?
I suppose seeing my mates as often as I did, because now I'm over here, I can't really as much.
Okay, that was quite a tame and quick one for you. Look, Kieran, I think what you've done there for us, you've done the S&C, which has been fantastic. You've come on here and you're always there to help us. And, you know, when you spoke about John Fisher boys, you know, being good lads when they leave, you know, you're a prime example of that. So thank you so much for the time you've done there. We'll probably get you on again and be quizzing you on some other things. But,
yeah.
You know, congratulations with all you're achieving. You're doing the school really proud, and it's great to see that you can come back and give a little bit back. That means a lot.
No worries at all. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right.
Very much.
Appreciate it. See you later. Bye.